He's Kevin Meagher. He's a former Labour Party special advisor. He's now associate editor of Labour Uncut. A very good morning to you, Kevin.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Just first of all, what do you make of Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood and her announcement of tough new measures to tackle illegal migration, Trump-style visa bans, we're told, 20-year wait to settle permanently, telling judges to interpret the ECHR Article 8, the right to a family life and privacy, differently. Do you think any of these are going to actually achieve anything? Well, caller, we just had Ray and indeed Vernon both saying zero chance of anything actually changing. What do you think?
I mean, I totally understand. I was listening to the gentleman just before the break, and I totally understand people's cynicism about all of this because, I mean, hand on heart, the British public has been failed by the red team and the blue team on immigration for a very long time. We've embarked on a policy of effectively open door immigration, but at a time when the British public have time after time after time expressed complete opposition to that, but the politicians have carried on anyway. So we've ended up in a mess where there's a crisis of governance amongst as much as anything else around immigration, and different governments come in and try and crack down on it and say they will, and then they don't. And of course, most significantly recently, I suspect, with the Boris wave of a few years ago post-Brexit. Yeah. So this is a line in the sand today. It's a really important day. It's an important day for the life of this government, which has been slipping and sliding.
Yeah,
of course,
but we've all heard that so many times, haven't we? That's why. I mean, my audience is just totally, we're just completely and utterly cynical now. We're just like, oh,
yeah, absolutely. I don't blame
nothing's going to happen. But I mean, some of this, only some of it, but some of it does involve, acts of Parliament. The reality is, Labour MPs aren't going to vote this through. They've got 412 Labour MPs, for goodness sake. You can't get anything done in Parliament without a majority of Labour MPs supporting it. They wouldn't even support a £5 billion cut to welfare that was completely and utterly needed. In which case, for goodness sake, the chances of them voting for something like this, they're not going to do it.
I think there's two things. One is the package that Shabana Mahmood has articulated over recent days and is going to announce in the Commons at 3:30 this afternoon. Is it a bold package? Is it a workable package? Is it going to be popular in the country? Because I think that's the crucial thing. Are people going to say, you know what, this sounds like it might start to make some difference and turn us in a different direction? And if it does, Labour MPs are going to have to listen to that very carefully, because where people on the traditional Liberal left are and where they reside and where the British public resides on this issue are in two different places and have been for a very long time. And that's not sustainable anymore. I think what Shabana Mahmood is doing is very bold, is very brave. She's putting her neck on the line. It's big stakes for her, because if she gets this right, drives these changes through, starts to turn not only the issue of immigration around, but public perception with it, then she is teed up to be Keir Starmer's successor, because she's grabbed the nettle and done the hard job and the dirty job in British politics.
Well, indeed. I mean, that's the thing, though. If something that's popular with the British public may not be popular with Labour MPs. And we know, we've seen this with Wes Streeting, actually. He talks tough on the health service, and we've got this doctor strike. Got day 4 now, the doctor strike. And it's interesting, in the NHS saying, look, actually, there are fewer and fewer doctors actually taking part in these BMA strikes, just saying, look, the BMA doesn't represent us anymore. But you've got exactly the same issue which he faces, which is, again, people go, oh, he seems quite sensible and sane. Yeah, but he's one of the least popular when it comes to Labour Party members. The funny thing about Labour Party members is when they had the opportunity, they voted for a full-on socialist like Jeremy Corbyn. And that's what they really want. They're not happy with Starmer, not because he's not getting the job done on the economy and on immigration. They're unhappy with him because they think he's too right-wing.
I think there's been a change, certainly, in the composition of the Labour Party membership in recent years, and that's I think it's gone down quite a lot, and I think a lot of the idealistic people that came in to support Jeremy Corbyn have toddled off somewhere else, and they're probably with Zach Polanski, and they're probably with
I would say the unrealistic people.
Jeremy Corbyn again. So I think the people who are left in the Labour Party tend to be a bit more hard-headed. Yes, of course, as idealistic people, but the issue about governing is it's that hackneyed phrase. It is about hard choices, and this government has got one hard choice after another. It's got one full inbox of difficult decisions per day.
Well,
a lot of these things are doing things that you might not necessarily want to, but need to happen.
And that's part of the issue.
Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting are in that pole position of sort of saying, look, we've got two very difficult jobs to do at the Home Office and at Health. If we can make a big difference and start to turn things around ahead of the general election, then we have shown that we can govern and that we can take tough decisions. And that's the message really for a lot of their colleagues
somebody
aren't doing that.
Somebody won't take the tough decisions. This is Rachel Reeves. We've got the budget in a week and a half's time, and we know what the money markets are saying. They don't care whether it's Liz Truss, they don't care whether it's Rishi Sunak, David Cameron, or whoever is in charge. They don't care. They just want the numbers to add up, and they're saying, look, you're going to have to do big spending cuts and some big across-the-board tax rises. Now, we're looking at stealth taxes, as an economist pointed out earlier, aren't really stealthy anymore in terms of the thresholds being frozen. Something the Tories have done for years as well, meaning more and more people get dragged into higher rates of tax than they otherwise would be in. And again, that high rate, the 40% tax rate, which 20 years ago was a tax rate for seriously high earners, is now your average vaguely successful earner are paying that money. But in terms of where the budget is, we're told, that one of the reasons why there was a lot of talk about a leadership challenge after the budget is because, frankly, what's going to be in the budget next week is so bad for the government. There was talk of income tax rises, breaking that manifesto commitment, and goodness knows what else, that actually, it's going to finally be the death knell for Keir Starmer. What do you make of all the shenanigans of all the leadership bids, the Morgan McSweeney briefing that apparently wasn't him but everyone thinks was, Angela Rayner apparently putting her tuppence worth in as the former Deputy Prime Minister? Do you think there is going to be a leadership challenge to Keir Starmer before Christmas, or do you think it's going to wait until after May? And if there is one either of those times, is he going to stay the course?
Well, I mean, last week was a week from hell, I think, for the government from its perspective. And you can't afford very many of those because, you're right a minute ago to mention, the bond markets are looking at this and sort of saying we want stability and predictability. And we want to know that the government can actually make good on its golden rules and make good on its commitments. And there isn't too much double speak.
But last week's
and the politicians behind them want that as well.
But last week's ban was entirely self-confected.
It was. Pick your metaphor. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot. They're on about rolling the pitch. They managed to roll over their own feet at the same time. I mean, it was an absolute shambles. I mean, and government communications, unfortunately, throughout the life of this government, have been a shambles. Let's be honest about it. But I mean, what happened last week was clearly there's an intersection point when Rachel Reeves has got some better news on the state of the economy, and rather than managing all this with a bit of theatre in the run up to the budget and perhaps even on budget day itself, they've managed to kind of just like splurge this all out. So you've ended up with on one day the government has got a 30 billion black hole and it needs to raise income tax to fix that. The next day, it doesn't need to raise income tax because that black hole is apparently 7 billion. And in British government terms, that's small change, frankly. She can handle that and she can manage that. But they've managed to turn what was a good news story, frankly, the economy probably in slightly better health than we realise, and they've managed to turn that into disaster last week, which is when you look out sometimes in government, you look out and you start slipping and sliding, and it's very difficult to get your footing again. Yeah. But you can't afford to make those kinds of gaffes a week and a half out from one of the most important budgets in the last 50 years.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, let's face it, we know it's Rachel Reeves' second budget. It's going to be her final budget. There's no doubt at all about that. What do you make of the runners and riders to take over? Because no one seems to think that, something massively huge has to happen for Keir Starmer to stay the course and manage a full 2 years as Prime Minister. We've had the first Labour MP openly calling for him to go, Clive Lewis. I mean, he's normal, usual suspect. Don't think you can read much into that. But the fact that these bids for taking over from him are now so blatant and obvious. I say, Angela Rayner coming back out of the woodwork. Not time to do her admin. She hasn't paid her extra 40 grand on her stamp duty that she's owed, but she apparently has got time to be offering jobs if she gets the top job to other MPs.
I think that Labour history tells you two things. One, it tells you that there's a particular pathology about being in government where eventually everybody starts to turn on each other. And perhaps the Tories in recent years have been the same. But they've been historically better at managing those divisions than Labour has been. Labour was like this in the 1940s, the 1960s, the 1970s. And of course, even through the Blair Brown years, which were, relatively successful. So there is always that kind of pathology of people thinking, I can do your job better than you can, mate. Can you get out of the way and let me have a go? So that's definitely going on. But this is, I think, classically a parliament of two halves. what we can see at the moment is, reforms miles ahead of everybody. We could have a major structural realignment in British politics. The economy is not doing desperately well, and we've got this international kind of uncertainty in pretty much any direction around the globe that you care to look. Now that's what we're dealing with right now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that by 2027 that's what we're going to be dealing with then. And my suspicion,
I think it's going to be a lot worse.
Well, it may be, you never know, but I think Labour MPs would be a bit crazy at this point to say let's get rid of Keir Starmer and put somebody else in position, because they've got to play his cards. Yeah,
I keep saying to everyone, it's the same in tray. That's the issue. Kevin Mark, absolutely fascinating to talk to you. Do come back again soon. Former Labour Special Advisor, Associate Editor of Labour Uncut. Really appreciate that.